imagine happy days. I imagine there are, yep, already some Kinas trickling in. I see that number ticking up.
We got 19, 20. Keep going.
Good afternoon. If you're on the East Coast, good midday. If you're in the middle, and good morning if you're coming from the West Coast. Seeing 40, 42. Nice to see everybody. Just to check that the chat is working and also to say hi. If you could drop in the chat where you are calling in from today, I really enjoy seeing the sort of geographic spread that we have. One time I think from all 50 states, which was pretty fun. And if I don't see the chat, I don't see anything coming in the chat. There we go.
I love seeing where people are coming from and seeing who I know who's on here as well.
Arizona.
Know some folks. Hey, Mike, how you doing from Arizona?
Tracy from Ontario, what's up? Represent Canada. We were just talking about how I've just applied for my Canadian citizenship. As a Brit, Illinois, we have lots of, we work with lots of people in Illinois.
Mr. Horton is on. That's great. Great to see Dick online.
I see a Longmeadow, Massachusetts on here. New England, great.
Just up the road from you.
Yeah, just up the road. I live in East Longmeadow, yeah.
Someone from my team is currently in California, working remotely, and they said the weather's awful, which I was kind of happy about. That's a bit of shouting for you. The chant for Montreal is like, apologies for Celsius, but like 27, 28, so I guess like 80s. Right now it's sunny, it's kind of nice. Ohio, Florida, I'm sure it's pretty nice. All right, so we've got 70 people so far, more trickling in. I guess we'll get going. Just got to run through some housekeeping stuff. Say a couple words and then I'll pass over to Chris. So if you can go to the next slide, please, Chris. Yeah, so this is just some housekeeping for us, so you guys know what's going on. All attendees are automatically muted. So if you're sat there with some noise in the background, traffic, dog, whatever, don't worry, we can't hear you. You're not disturbing the proceedings. Audio is available by computer, which I'm sure most of you are doing right now, or by phone. So if your internet connection drops out in the email that we sent you, there is a phone number that you can dial into and follow. If you have any questions, we ask that you use the Q&A function, which is at the bottom next to the chat. Usually what happens here is the chat is kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of vibrant, lots of people chatting backwards and forwards, making comments. If you have an actual question using the Q&A, make sure that we will not lose it and we can come back to it and answer it at a later date.
Are you there, Mike?
Yep.
Right, there you go. Just froze a little bit there.
Oh, what was the last thing that I said?
I don't remember. I was so worried about you freezing.
Okay. Molly, could you hear me? Or is that?
Yes,
okay,
I heard
cool.
you.
So that was at your end, Chris, but no worries. And then the last thing, if you have to drop for any reason, we will be sending a recording to everybody who's registered. So you can expect a recording in your inbox within the next 24 to 48 hours. A little bit about Amelia, who we are. So we're bringing this webinar to you today. So if you can go back a slide, Chris, to the blue one. Amelia is a recreation management platform that is designed to help you run your Parks and Rec department as efficiently as possible. We concentrate on giving you your time back. So by integrating into your processes to allow the back-end work to happen as quickly as possible, but also having an excellent user experience for your residents to sign up and interact with your programs, we try and make everything as easy as possible. However, we are not here to talk about that today. So I'm not going to mention that again. On the next slide, one of the things we like to do at Amelia is stuff like this. We like to provide thought leadership to sort of celebrate, elevate, empower people from the Parks and Rec industry, which is why Chris and Molly, we have tons more content like that available at amelia.com/library. So, we've probably done about 10 webinars together at this point now, Chris. We've got ebooks up there, reports, research. Please go check it out. Welcome any feedback about that. It's honestly an honor to be working for customers such as yourself. So thank you very much. Chris, take it away. I'm going to mute the camera off and I will see you all at the end.
All right, Mike, thank you very much. And it is a pleasure to be back online here with this session called Thinking Big in Parks and Recreation, and it's a new session for me, and really excited about having Molly Keys, the director of Parks and Recreation, from South Windsor, Connecticut. She is an NRPA 30 under 30 awardee, I guess is the question. She's the incoming president of the NRPA's YPN, so you'll see her if you get a chance to go to NRPA. And she's going to play color commentator for this session today. She's going to be managing the chat, throwing some lines in, throwing some commentary in as well. Hey, Molly, do you want to do any introduction about yourself?
Yeah, I'm just really excited to be here today, Chris. So thank you for the opportunity. So as you said, Molly Keys, Director of Parks and Rec. I've been in South Windsor, Connecticut for about 4 years now. Really excited. It's a really awesome spot in Hartford County. If anyone else is in New England, please give me a shout out. Come say hi to me when you see me at NRPA. And yeah, looking forward to doing the session with you.
Well, Molly, I saw some folks from Maine and Massachusetts on that list. And so I know we've had about 20 or 30 more people join us since we first asked. So if you have not put your name and address in, or name and location, and do that so we know kind of who's there and we can see who we're working with today. So this is all about thinking big. And what does really thinking big mean to you? And so maybe we can start that off in the chat, Molly, with, what do you think thinking big really means for you? And typically what we think about thinking big is really about, how do we have the first of something in a community, a first pool, a first ice rink, a first sport field, artificial field, whatever. How do we, go and deal with land conservation, or maybe even, Molly, I think you have a good comment about how, we can renovate aging facilities.
Yeah, so currently in South Windsor, we are looking at renovating our aging school facility that we are housed in. So from the 1960s. So that's a big project for us in our area. There's not very many recreation facilities. So we're going through that process, but really a lot of other towns in our area, their big projects are building a new trail or, building an additional field. So this is going to be a huge project for Connecticut.
Yeah, and that's what we have to say is not everybody can build, a $50 million facility, $100 million facility. Big to some folks may just be, a trail connector. And a lot of the processes that we're going to talk about really are the same. I remember reading an article of a town in Maine, and it said, "Oh, big parks and recreation projects are ahead." And honestly, it was adding 2 water fountains, but probably some of the processes will still be need to be used as well from there. And hey, Aaron, how you doing from Greeley? So here's the issue that we sometimes have. Why are ideas concept killed before they start? Or to some extent, why are we fearful to bring up ideas? And that's what I see, Molly, a lot is, people are really just fearful of bringing up ideas for a number of reasons. And really the reasons of we've tried it before. And we get so disenfranchised about, trying things because we've just been beat down so much from that standpoint. Or what I really think about it is we have ideas, but we haven't really put the back end of it. We just have the idea, we have the concept, but we haven't figured out the stakeholders. We haven't figured out the vision of the true vision of the project. We haven't figured out the operational realities of the project. And what I like to say a lot of times is this may be so, but so what? And I like to say this is just because somebody says no, that doesn't mean we shouldn't stop the vision idea. Molly, what do you think about that?
No, I mean, I agree with you completely, Chris. For myself being a young director or, many of us on the call, how do we go past some of those hesitations? Have you ever, thought of an example that you could provide us of a time that you had to go over through this hurdle to bring up a project that time and time again they've said no, can't do this? Can you talk a little bit about that?
I would say pretty much every project is we're going to automatically get a no. Parks and Recreation, at the end of the day, we know that it's behind fire, it's behind police, it's behind some of the public works projects. So we're sometimes third, fourth, fifth pick on when true dollars are available for projects. And the initial reaction all the time is just for them to say no, because they want to, be, quote unquote, tough on crime or be responsive to the fire department. For me, the projects, when I'm talking about are bigger projects, and we'll explain some of these in a little while, that take a lot of time and a lot of money. And so that's the initial reaction to no. But when I hear the no, I'm like, okay, what other way can I do it? What other way can I do it? How can I address their fears, their anxieties as well? Those are key words there. And one of the things that I learned very quickly through, my experience, and I credit Dr. Jeb Jordan out of East Carolina in one of her leadership books. She really she really put these words in, and I think they're accredited to somebody else, but really having a positive mental attitude is really, as she defines it, or is defined, to live without hesitation or holding back our most cherished, held, and high esteemed values. And so for me, the highest esteemed value is the power of Parks and Recreation, right? What Parks and Recreation can do for a community from a physical standpoint, the individual, the families, everything in between, that's what keeps me moving on. And when I hear no, it's okay, how do I figure a new way to do it? What things can I do to get them moving off this point? Now, the other thing too, Molly, where I think you were talking about, is this whole thing about personal conviction is really a challenging situation. I've seen, and I'm not sure if you've seen, and chime in with this, where the project becomes more about the director of Parks and Recreation. Don't worry about the board, but becomes more about the Parks Recreation director than the actual community. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I mean, I see it often, unfortunately, right? Because you become so invested, you want this new shiny facility, this new, trail added, you want an outdoor fitness, and it becomes something that's so personal to you, but you have to go back to that root of, this is our community. We're here to serve our community, and really taking that piece and not taking those no's to heart, right? Just reevaluating, what does our community want, instead of what do I truly want? But
Yeah,
you see it often. People kind of get, a little
and
mixed up in it.
and one of my biggest failures in my career was a community center in Colorado, where it became more about me, of, hey, listen, I've got to bring this across the finish line, versus really seeing and reading the tea leaves about this project. The way it was packaged wasn't exactly right for the community. And so what we kind of say is, it's not about me, it's about them. And make sure we always keep the them into perspective versus the me. It's not about getting another line on your resume of a new, XYZ community center or trail or whatever. It's about what's good for the community. What's good for the community will end up being good for you, which is awesome. Another thing that I say a lot of times is really, chase the vision. And this goes into what we were talking about the last slide. Chase the vision, not the money. And once we get the vision right, the money will be there. The support will be there. The community buy-in will be there. But we've got to get the vision right. And again, it's not necessarily always going to be the first draft of the vision. It might be multiple drafts, and especially as we start getting stakeholder input on what the vision is. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But what we're going to be talking about here overall today is really that communities can be afraid of their potential and change. And I know, Molly, in smaller towns, recreation, in South Windsor, I think that's really evident. In my experience, in that Colorado experience, was they were 80 miles away from Denver, and Denver's called the Front Range. We pitched the recreation center, and they were like, you know what? I don't want to be the Front Range, because they thought that rec center meant that they were going to be the Front Range. And so I didn't really understand those sensitivities from there. What are you seeing in Connecticut? Texas is different from Connecticut, which is different from Colorado. What have you seen in that aspect, especially in New England, which, I've got some roots there, so I can tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, growing up, born, raised New England, right? New Hampshire, went to school in Massachusetts, working in Connecticut. You see that people are rooted in tradition, right? They have their values, their tradition, and sometimes they don't want to change the landscape of their community for better or for worse, right? Sometimes people are hindering the growth of their community. But the leaders in those areas, you have to be able to chat about this change and how it could potentially match their needs, right? Match their overall goal, and just kind of talk through, what are you scared of? But oftentimes in New England, like, we have our recreation, and you do recreation the way it's always done. So really just trying to be innovative and change some of the community's minds on, you guys really want this, but how do we get there without changing the landscape or changing the values, right?
And I'll say, Molly, that is not unique to New England, though there are issues like that all over the country. And Amy on the chat said, so true. If you follow the vision, the community will trust you and offer to help. They will share their hidden talents. And Amy, can you just put in kind of where you are, maybe a little bit more, where you've seen success in what we're talking about, and so we can drive the chat going as well. But we need to match their needs and wants, and we need to show them how it's going to work. That's a huge issue. We get these vision ideas, but we don't understand the operational reality as well. So the more we understand these issues, we'll be able to do the actual big things. And so, what we're going to talk about is, moving on beyond the traditional boundaries, really getting some different ways of thinking. How do we identify the skills necessary to really inspire? Because that's what we're doing. So look at this little outline. We've only got 45 minutes, Molly, to really hammer through 6 bullets here. We're going to go pretty quick, but it is, there's a lot of great information here of what's the visionary mindset? How do we facilitate creativity and innovation? Developing that vision on that project, on the department, the stakeholders, and really actualizing the concept, and we're going to give you a case study as well. I've been really digging into this concept of the mindsets of professionals, and to some extent the mindset of communities as well. We see the fixed mindset, and the really is, it's easy to say fix, because it's quote unquote safe. But the fixed mindset doesn't get us where Parks and Recreation really needs to be. And we kind of say at the bottom, is this you or your board? And Molly, what are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, no, Chris, this is this is something that you often see across the country in agencies. I have a really good example of that. So I took over as director about 4 years ago. My predecessor had done a great job, 30 plus years. A lot of the board members have been there 20 to 30 years, really invested in our agency. They're known for great programs and events. However, they had that mindset of, we're perfect, we're doing things amazing, we're top quality, no one's better than us. And I had to ask that question, are we really truly relevant? And we had to kind of go over and talk about what other municipalities were doing in Connecticut and New England, and kind of talk about that big picture of, I know you don't want to be seen as anything but perfect, and you have some fear around that, but we want to remain relevant, and you really want to remain top notch. So there is a lot of fear around it, and you do see that fixed mindset, but it can change. It really can change.
Well, one of the things you use the R word in your narrative there, and I love it because it's one of my favorite words, which is relevance. I think about 2010, 2012, I heard this speaker use, we've got to be more relevant, we've got to be more relevant, we've got to be more relevant. And I was like, wow, I agree 100%. And so when you really define the word relevant, and one of the things I want you to use in your day-to-day work, for all the people that are on, I think we're up to about 126 right now, is, how are our programs, how are our services relevant? How are our facilities relevant? Because the customer of yesterday is not the customer of today. And more importantly, we need to use the word, not resident or customer, we need to use the word consumer. The consumer is not what they were 2 years ago or 5 years ago. At the end of the day, basketball is basketball, soccer is soccer, gymnastics is gymnastics, but how they're packaged can be different to meet the needs of the lifestyles that our residents, our consumers are in today. And so that's where we see is the benefit of the growth mindset is we're talking about relevance. We're conceptualizing how these programs are relevant. But even there's one more step beyond that, which is this whole thing of visionary mindset, which is really how do we push the envelope? How do we push the envelope on our programs and services and that type of aspect? And Molly, I'll ask you, when was the last time you pushed the envelope? And for the folks online too, is when was the last time you guys pushed the envelope on a program or service as well? So Molly, you shoot ahead and we'll see what we get on the chat.
All right. Yeah, no, for me, honestly, I push the envelope quite often. So again, coming into this position 4 years ago, it was something that, I had to understand the community, the programs, the services, but often, we push the envelope. My team they're very creative, and we're like, hey, how can we make this bigger and better? So oftentimes I'm going to my board with these new ideas, and they're like, whoa, this is a little crazy, but you got to try to push it a little bit. And I'd love to hear from some more people in the chat. Like, when have you pushed the envelope? When's the last time you have?
And it could be just a program, a policy
Yeah.
shift. It doesn't necessarily have to be something physical standpoint.
Because we do it every day in our jobs. We truly do.
Molly,
We try to change for the better.
Molly, one of the things that we did was we developed an aerial adventure course in our community where we, think about telephone poles and wires and, everybody's climbing and jumping and that type of stuff. Everybody's looking at us, not only in the greater Houston area, but across the nation are like, yeah, right news, but, we developed the vision, we developed the stakeholder input, we developed the operational plans to say, hey, we believe this thing can work. And since we opened it up in 2019, was it 2019? Yeah, 2019. We've expanded it by 25%. And
Awesome.
even our consultants, our safety consultants are like, we never thought you would actually have people come to this, but it was defining the vision and all that type of stuff and really push the envelope. And so those are really the key things of the visionary mindset, the creativity, the innovation, the resilience, or I want to add another word in there, persistence as well. The planning and really being different. And Molly, you talked about different programs in that word performance lab. I got to give all props up to Mary Steinbeck. I think, Molly, you may know Mary. She's out of Montrose, Colorado. And she was looking at this, I think it was like an industrial park that they were some sort of special area in Montrose that were trying to spur growth. And they built a building, and then she pitched to a performance lab. So where people were going to enhance their speed or agility or something like that. And now she's got 150 folks using that lab every single month and paying monthly memberships. That we're talking about a small town in the middle of Western Colorado, but a non-traditional idea and that visionary aspect, but she had to bring the community together. She had to bring the vision together, the stakeholders, and develop the operational plan. But I love this. I'm going to try to summarize this one more time. And this comes from Nike. And it's really from 1974. And I found this, I stumbled upon this, and it says kind of our businesses change and we're on the offense all the time. And that's what I was talking about of trying to make sure that we have, our programs are relevant to our communities and we're thinking outside the box. Nike's done some great things. Nike's done some challenging things as well. I love the other aspects of, assume nothing and, how do we have dangers with the bureaucracy, the decision-making? And so I like to say that this is a manifesto per se. And how many of you guys have watched The Bear, the restaurant show, The Bear? And he kind of identifies the non-negotiables. And so how do we have non-negotiables that facilitate the idea about creativity and innovation and the mindset? And Monica loves The Bear. She knows she knows the show as well. And then Renee threw out that she loves these. But we have some good comments on Jeffrey talked about corporate training, doing corporate training, push the envelope on the designs on the playground manufacturing as well. more community-based programming, not for all religions, which is awesome. We're a very, very diverse society these days. And of course, we have some disability programs, which are awesome. And Janine Blakely, adaptive mountain bike program. These are awesome. So the question now is really, how do we develop ideas which can foster the creativity and innovation? So we're really looking at, you as the leader of these organizations, whether you're the director or the superintendent or just even a program coordinator, really doesn't matter. But how do you develop these things? And what I like to say is you need to step outside your box a little bit and really review the other industries. Many of you know I do a lot of training outside of my normal work. I was in Florida yesterday. And so I go to hotels and I go to restaurants and I go to the airports and I see a lot of different things. And I just try to pick up little things about what people are doing. The other aspect I like to do is review the competition. I mean, there's some great programs that are around the country. Molly, how do you review your competition in South Windsor?
Yeah. So, as you said, we should be looking at other industries, reviewing our competition. So for us, we have Club Waka, who does a ton of adult programming, right? So sometimes we might go and check out what their programs look like, their marketing. We might chat with some of their participants to see, like, why do you like their programs over ours? We have the Y, we have the Boys and Girls Club, Goldfish Swim School. We have a bunch of adaptive programs that we do similarly. So we just go and, we kind of look at how they're operating and see what we can do better. And if we really should do better, if we should stop doing those programs, right? So I think it's important. I
Yeah,
want to know too, do others, like in the chat box, if others could say, like, do you review your competition annually,
I think we
monthly?
got a comment here from Samantha who says, "Don't reinvent the wheel. Some of the best programs we have implemented have come from other departments."
Yep.
Absolutely. And the reason one of the comments I want to make here is two different aspects. One, especially when we're talking about programs and facilities and services, is this marketplace continually changes, and most importantly, is for the majority of our society, they have the ability to choose their recreation provider, and it may or may not be you. The other factor that we need to say too is municipal services that we majority are. Parks and Recreation is the only person who has competition. Fire doesn't. There's not more fire departments. There's not another police department. You can't go to somebody else for a building permit. But from a recreational service, I can go to the next town over, or I can go to the Y. So it's really good to see kind of what everybody else is doing to incite creativity and incite innovation type of thing. But one of the other things too that I like to say is be a park user, be a park visitor as well. Really look at what's going on into your community overall, which is a really good way to look at it. The other factor I like, and I've been trying to do this myself as well, is just put the phone down. Too often when we have seconds, you can look at these things and see how many times you've picked up the phone. And people are up to like 180 times a day where they're touching their phone, because we don't want to be bored. But see what people are doing. See what people are going out there in your parks, in your recreation facilities, in other public areas, how they're using things, why are they using things, and that's going to spur ideas from that standpoint. And one of the other things I like to say is, go for a walk and a hike. I can't tell you how many great ideas that I've come up with when I finally am just like the brain just gets cleared by going for a walk. Then all of a sudden something will pop into your idea. But here's the comment here is, every time you visit a park or review your competition, what should you be doing? Molly, what are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, Chris, when I go out to my park, right now, currently, I kind of just walk around. I look at our facilities. I do what you said. I don't look at my phone though. I'm out in the moment, right? I typically actually do not wear my park and recreation shirt, so people don't come up and talk to me about specifically parks and recreation. I just want to be a user at that point. Um, and I kind of just observe and walk around. Is there something that I should be doing specifically that you think would
Yeah, I
help?
think you need to be a little bit more inquisitive I respect the fact that, hey, I don't want to wear my Parks and Rec shirt. I think there's good things and bad things about wearing the Park
Yep.
and Rec shirt. One, you want to be visible to the community. Hey, this is Molly. I'm the director of the
Yep.
town. But I like to ask questions. Okay. Why are they in the park? Why do they choose this park? Why do they choose this activity? Who are they? What do they look like? Now I see a a child in a park, or a dad and a child in a park, or two kids in a park. It doesn't really matter. But why do they come to this park? Wow. And
Mm,
what makes them want to come to the park? And so it's not just, oh, great, there's two kids, but by asking these series of questions, you're starting to build a profile of who your consumer at that park, at that program, or at that service looks like. Let me give you into another level even better. And I'm working on this session right now. It's called Generation XYZ as parents and consumers. Because as Generation XYZ, we wear two different hats. One, we like our recreation provided to us a certain way, and we want it for our kids in a certain way. Where that's a different way of thinking versus just saying, oh, wow, there's two kids in a park. Great.
yep.
So again, helping develop that vision. How can we meet that vision? So part of creating the visionary mindset is also looking at your staff, and so what are some ways, Molly, that you really have fostered that creative vision or process or ethos in your work group to foster the visionary mindset?
Yeah, so when I started the position, I focused on being that kind of leader that foster the culture of mistakes and failures happen. But I just really want to encourage the staff, like, how do we learn from them, right? So for an everyday example, we had a staff who was really excited to bring a new event in town, and it was kind of like a pop up in the park series, and it flopped. But instead of really focusing on that failure, we hosted a team debrief after, and we provided a space for them to chat about what actually went well, what missed, and brainstorm solutions to see if we can revive it in more of a creative sense. And it's now become a practice on our team where they all feel comfortable to share feedback, come up with ideas across the department, instead of like a silo, right? Because we have staff that might do more athletics or more events or more childcare, but they are able to chat and have that creativity together. And it's really positive, it's creative, and it makes it so that way everyone feels that they are valued on the team.
And so you're getting buy-in, you're getting discussion, you're
Yes.
allowing discussion to have, and one of my favorite words is really cross-pollination.
Yep.
Is Molly and I, a great example is this session. Okay, I originally did this session probably about 2 months ago in Colorado. She's peppering in with just a different perspective because she's coming from South Windsor, Connecticut. I'm coming from outside of Houston, Texas. We have different backgrounds, we have different years of experience, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that this cross-pollination is working. The other thing too I want to say is I like to put from a staff's perspective is when an employee comes to me with a problem. I've been preaching this 1-3-1 method where, okay, they come with one issue and they just expect you to solve it. But I've been starting to ask, hey, listen, what are 3 solutions that you have? And then what's your recommendation? That way they start thinking differently and thinking more proactively. How do we solve these challenges? And that's how we get this different kind of ethos from that standpoint. I did find a question in the Q&A, not necessarily in the chat, but Q&A, but I want to
Yep.
address this. And this person who's anonymous, which we will respect here, is how do we strike a balance between growth and just trying to fix and maintain our parks? It's hard to justify proposing a project when the money could be used for towards repairs. I face this challenge constantly and end up only putting out fires and not having the chance to put new plans in place. This type of thing that we're talking about does both. We're not just talking about the newest, bestest, all this type of stuff. It is, and Molly alluded to this in the start of this session of she's just trying to get people on board to fix this stuff.
Yep.
Okay, because that may be the big picture to fix the municipal pool, to fix the the roof on the rec center. Is we're going to get into this not only we're getting there of the steps that we need to take there. And Amy said, involve staff in the process and listen to their ideas versus shutting them down. Exactly. Active listening, 2 ears, 1 mouth, huge issue there. And so I like to have little exercises sometimes. And I like to throw out these ideas of basically stating, can we identify 10 things you can do with a milk crate, but it can't be used to hold things. And so why don't we throw that in the chat? Why don't we throw in that chat? Oh, Molly just got it up. She's doing great. What can we do with this milk carton besides hold things? And we can see what other things we can come up with as well. But we have we can do a lot of different things, the brainstorming, the creativity workshops, the innovation labs. And Molly, you've had some success with think tanks.
Yeah. So recently, about a year ago, we started doing think tanks to try to revive some creativity within the team, and also solve some problems. Because although we might be like leaders within our department, we can't always solve things on our own, right? We should use our team. So we intentionally carve out time where a segment of our agency, they tackle various topics. So marketing for us is a huge one. The decrease of adult programming is a huge one for us. So they kind of go off, they think, they chat through things, and they come and then they present it at the staff meeting, and then we continue that discussion. So I think it's really had some cool creative events come out of that, some new programs, also some policy updates have come out of that. And I think just again, that cross pollination, that defined time to sit there and chat through those problems with other interruptions out of the way, it's really fantastic for any agency to adopt.
And I love some of these ideas of giant Legos. That's awesome. A basket to shoot in and that type of stuff. But
robot costume, yeah.
Yeah, robot costume was cool. But
Yeah.
you basically said it here is, use your meeting time to facilitate the creative process and the visionary process of just identifying one program or policy at each staff meeting. You can't do this every day or even every week, but maybe even just once a month. You try to focus some time and allow those ideas to really mature, not mature, the idea is to percolate. That's the word I'm looking for, to percolate around here. And you do that, and then guess what? You implement the new program, and that means that their ideas are being taken. They're more apt to being, visionary and growth mindset. And so let's go quickly here through the vision. Which is, of course, we know desired future state, and the problem is too many of us have just really complex vision statements, right? Which really are supposed to be short. And especially when you start talking about a project, the shorter the better, because at the end of the day, we want these things to be simple. We want it to be so simple that a 16-year-old can really understand and comprehend, because oftentimes those are the folks that are working your front desk. It's not the director that's answering the question, it's the frontline staff. And so over my experience in the last few years, I've really come to the kind of understanding is that, a very, very simple thing about what Parks and Recreation is we grow individuals, families, and communities. We grow individuals, take all the stuff that we do. That's at the end of the day, what we do. And whether it be from an economic perspective, an environmental perspective, a social perspective, a physical perspective, we do all that. So it's that simple. Another simple one is for the community to realize the power or the full impact of Parks and Recreation. Very simple from there. And the question is, I said the simple, okay? Why are these ideas really why are these ideas or these vision statements quote unquote good? And it's the impactfulness, right? They're rally points, they're rally cries. We can build things from them. So the simpler, the better. Hey, listen, we want to develop the rec center. We want to repair the roof. We want to repair this. Why do we want to repair that? Well, guess what? We can't have programs or services with a leaky roof. We can't have programs and services with a leaky pool. Very, very simple things that we can do. It's not complex. Now, we need to spend some time here because this is a key thing. Stakeholders, Molly. Why do they need to be a part of this project? Because it just can't be the municipal government. You as the director, the city manager, the board chair, the mayor, thinking things through. Why are the stakeholders need to be part of the project?
Yeah, I mean, engaging those diverse voices in your town, they help you understand what concerns there might be. They help you understand some opportunities for maybe something you didn't realize in the project. They also really kind of help you build up that support, and you might even get some additional partnerships. Like for us right now, a renovation is a huge thing for us. You know, we need some EDA upgrades. We need a new roof. We need some additional programming space. So early engagement was essential for us. Really, just chatting with those community groups, our current users, the people who don't use it, town council members who actually oppose the project because of the funding, and then as well as local groups like Rotary. So it's really essential to tap into those various people in your community.
And you led right to where I was going. We're going to talk about two different groups here. One is the users, okay? And I want you to talk to the users, quote unquote, last. And there's a reason why that, because a lot of decisions about Parks and Recreation are not made by the users. They're made by, the people who have the ears of the board, the mayor, et cetera, et cetera. And those are often the economic development folks. The Rotary, and that's just not the Rotary group, it's the Lawns, the Kiwanis, and all these kind of community-based groups that have power. Churches in many communities have powers. The Chamber of Commerce has powers. Elected officials, they may be your elected officials, or they may be other elected officials. We're in a special purpose district. We deal a lot with our county officials. We deal a lot with, we have other special purpose districts that overlap. They all have input. And so how do we get all these things together? And the business community is a big factor in there, whether they be part of the Rotary or not. But the key question here is, do we know where the power lies within and amongst these groups? Because all these groups kind of work together and talk together, and some align with some will align with an issue, some will not align with the issue. We have to understand it's bigger than just our users. Say that again, it's bigger than just our users. And this is where we probably fail the most, versus we just go to the users and say, what do you want? And so the key point is, even within these groups, there's always one or two people that really have the power. Who are those folks? We need to identify them. But Molly, we didn't mention a lot of people. We kind of alluded to them, but it's these folks, right? They're important too. While the business and all that type of stuff is important, these people are truly important in this process of the program users, the rec center folks, the athletics. One of the things that I want to say here as well is the fact that the reason why I put these as a secondary group, quote unquote secondary group, or maybe I should ask the group, why do you think I put them as a secondary group, not the first group? Is because one of the reasons why is the fact that only 6 to 8% of people in your city, in your town, actually use programmatic recreation. Okay, so doing the basketball program, doing the baseball program, doing an adult fitness program. So Molly, if I only have 6% of the people using a recreational program, what does that mean?
Well, it means that you're supposed to be engaging folks that are not using your programs, which is the majority.
Yeah,
Majority
I
of
mean,
your community.
it's 94% of the people who don't see or perceive the need.
Yeah, you got to educate them. Yeah, you got to have honest conversations, educate them.
Right. And so one of the things too, we also need to talk about, and I'm not sure that we did here. No, I didn't do it here. We didn't talk about here is, I think you, Molly, you alluded to this, is the detractors of the project. The people who are not everybody's for a brand new X or a brand new Y. It may not make sense for them, whether it be, hey, listen, I don't want to pay any more taxes, or I just don't value recreation. You still need to be aware of those people.
Well, and I think it's important to have those honest conversation, and be aware of them, but be willing to have that honest conversation, to hear their concerns, listen to them, because we might be able to come to a solution that they are okay with, and maybe we're not going to be able to. But I think it's really important to put yourself out there and chat with those people, as uncomfortable as it may be.
And here's the reason why, Molly. I think it's those folks are going to come to the board
Yep.
meetings. They're going to come to the city council meetings, and they're going to say this is the dumbest idea. And inevitably, your board, council members, town manager, whatever organization you're in is going to say, "Well, did you talk to them?" And when you can say yes, and you said, "Oh, by the way, we modified the proposal to, tweak it a little bit because of what they said," you're going to get a little bit more traction with your board and council. And that is a huge aspect there from there. So you gotta, it's everybody's in the pool here. Literally is the people who love you, the people who hate you, the people who are using your programs, the people who are not using your programs. We need to understand the totality of that community. And yeah, it gets a real challenge, when you move away from a little 5,000 person community or to 120,000, 130,000 people that I am. Molly, I forget what your population is in South Windsor.
Yeah, we're in the high 20s, but I mean, even so for us, right? We're an actively growing community. It's always changing. So just trying to get to understand who that population is as well.
A lot of people moving in and
Yeah.
out. So
Yeah.
now we get into a little bit more from an operational standpoint. We need to sell the vision. Once we've identified, we sell the concept. And so we identify what's the problem. And the problem might be, the leaky roof, or, hey, listen, the kids don't have a place to play. The sports are going not from, a fall and summer standpoint. They're going 12 months a year now. What are the key operatives? What are the key operational paradigms, financial modeling, funding sources? So now we're getting into the weeds. So it's not good enough to just have the vision of we need to repair the roof. What else can we do now that we have a repaired roof? What more programs? And somebody said is in the Q&A, you don't see it in the chat, is we're getting more pressure for revenue. Well, if I have a leaky roof, I can't use the facility. Therefore, I can't generate revenue. You see how we're connecting the dots there, putting A and B. So I like to say this here is ask yourself, how will the big idea benefit the residents, the businesses, interests, groups, again, the stakeholders there, me individually, me is in an average resident. Okay. How will the average resident benefit? While we are always thinking about, oh my God, this will be so good, we need to understand the impact of that park improvement. Okay, we're not talking about a leaky roof now, but a new artificial field, a new rink, a new park, a new BMX track, whatever it might be. We have to see both sides of the issue. And so, Molly, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I alluded to it a little bit earlier, but I think really just sitting down and chatting to people that are a part of these special interest groups, the businesses, the residents, and kind of getting both sides of the issue and fully educating yourself. Like, okay, here's our concerns. Can we address them? And really just educating yourself on both sides. So that way, again, you're talking to your board, you're talking to your town manager, city official, and you're educated on both sides, and you're hopefully able to solve a problem, and hopefully there's more benefits than negatives, right? So unfortunately we might come into a new idea, and then there might be more impacts or negatives and benefits, and if you're in that me instead of the we, sometimes that happens. So you kind of really need to be willing to chat through with all these different individuals and really get a better understanding of both sides of the coin.
Yeah, and what what I'm trying to also say with this is you need to understand that not everybody desires a new park in their neighborhood. Not everybody
No.
desires a new amenity in the neighborhood because of what it may have the potential to do. Here's a great example. So in our where we may have failed a little bit on this is one of our what we call village parks. So kind of a regional park in our model is we decided to change the field from grass to artificial turf. So we got approved. Of course, the first day the bulldozer comes there, starts grading and blading the field. It is like the apocalypse, of what the hell, or Armageddon, I should say, of just what the hell is happening. And it's because we are changing the park. We're changing the neighborhood. And so their perception is this is the world's worst thing. They're like, I want a quiet park, you know, and we're trying to like, well, you know, here's what the original intent of the park, which was for organized sports. No, it wasn't. It was a quiet park. Well, you know, we could have probably done a little bit better job. We have to see the issues as professionals, as directors, as senior managers. Many of you are on this call. We have to see the impact, and I kind of been using the term over a little while of we have to look at through other people's glasses of how this is going to affect that respective community. Not only it's a good thing, we think putting more people in a park is a good thing. Many people think putting more people in a park is a bad thing because of where I live. Okay. So key things, do not just limit to the positive, folks. We talked about that, and understand their issues with the concept. And so does your agency, does the agency have to own and operate the big vision? That's a key word there. Does your agency have to own and operate? There are many different ways to operate parks and amenities and that type of stuff. It doesn't mean that you have to do it always with your staff. It could be 501c3s operating it. It could be public-private partnerships. And we've got a couple of public-private partnerships in our park system. Joint ventures, licensing. We're looking at actually licensing 3 or 4 groups to facilitate special events, especially Lunar New Year, Diwali, Dios de los Muertos, and Juneteenth. We're looking at. We don't have the cultural sensitivity. Well, we're culturally sensitive, don't get me wrong on that, but we don't have the cultural sensitivity to actually produce those types of events. So let's let groups do that type of thing. Molly, have you worked with a 501c3?
Yeah, so we actually do quite often. So for a decent amount of our inclusion programs, we partner with a 501c3. We also do partner with a 501c3 to host a healthy living fundraiser every single year. For us, they're able to raise funds, and they are able to help us do health and wellness-based projects in our parks throughout the town. So we have a couple of really healthy partnerships. And to your point, for our renovations, we're looking into public-private partnerships and potentially how we can fund our projects through that. So it's different than the traditional thinking, though, because a lot of people on our end, they're hesitant of looking into public-private partnerships. They're hesitant of licensing or outsourcing because it looks different than how municipalities operated.
Right. In the concept with the public-private partnerships or any of these types of things, that last line there, it's about the give and the get. What am I giving? Oh, excuse me. What am I getting? Am I getting $100,000, $50,000, $1 million, or whatever? And what am I giving up? Okay. So typically you're giving up space, you're giving up time, you're giving up what? One of my experiences many years ago, there was a town in Ohio, and they worked with the school district. Great. They built a community center. Great. The town got, for 50% of the total cost of it, they got between 8 and 9 p.m. at night, every night. That's the wrong give and get. And so we have to be understanding of that. So Molly threw that question in there. So we're heading in the home. We got to develop the financial projections. We have to look at it potentially from a triple bottom line. If you're not familiar with the concept of the triple bottom line, we all know theoretically what an ROI is, right? How much we're spending, how much we're putting in, how much revenue we're getting, how many years is it going to take to pay off. But there are also different levels of that, which include equity analysis, environmental impacts, those types of things that we can actually blend into this thing called the triple bottom line. Some boards and councils want to look at that level. Some of it just want to look at the straight ROI. What are your margins? What are your projections? You know, we know when we do a commercial recreation facility, we want to do more than just, we want to make more than $1. You know, we don't want to just make 100% of cost recovery. We want to make 200%, 225%. And that's where we talk about, is the juice worth the squeeze? And of course, it says exercise financial prudence and exercise. I've been speaking too long the last couple of days, so I apologize. Exercise prudence. This is a very quick analysis of a financial model, which really shows you that we're looking at operational, we're looking at capital, we're looking at what we currently pay, but we're looking at it over 20 years. And so we know what the impact is, or it's a best guess estimate of what it is going to be, not just in year one, but 20 years from now, somewhere in 2035, 2040, 45, somewhere down that range. So hopefully long after I retire, long after I stop giving presentations, that, you know, this model is still working for them, but we have to look at it from the out. So here's a big thing, big picture, kind of putting it all together. There's this, the town that I worked in Colorado was ranching community, ag community. They really had no idea of what open space was. They looked to the left, they looked to the right, it was all open. Why do I need to protect it? We had to work with them through multiple years. This was not just instantaneous. Key point there, developing the vision, developing the strategy, the cost analysis, the stakeholder development took many, many years. This was about a 3-year project, which basically protected 360 acres in perpetuity. But we brought on partners because they didn't want to pay for it. They didn't understand it. They didn't want to pay for it. And so the concept that I got in my head was if I can figure out how to get others to pay for it, I probably got a shot at this. And so that's what we did. We had about $1.2 million of grant money, and it only cost us $40,000 for 360 acres. And so, yes, they were going to do that. Here's something that we're working on right now is we got a 208-acre parcel of land. It's mostly floodplain. The board has no capital funding. We got to try to figure out how to balance resident versus non-resident use. Our board is adverse to bonding. We are just right now in developing the vision, what this thing could be. How do we're in that early stage of vision, and who are the stakeholders that we need to get at the table to make this vision right, get that public process right as well. So Molly, want to give you this as a kind of final thought here. We talked about the vision, we talked about the funding, we talked about the ops, and we talked about the stakeholders' needs and wants. If we don't have all those in the right place at the right time, that sweet spot is very, very small. And that's what this illustration really tries to do. We got to get the vision, the funding, the stakeholders, and the operation right in that sweet spot, or we're going to be off kilter. And that's only when times when we're going to have those big pictures, big ideas for Parks and Recreation, whether it be a new facility, a renovation, an old facility, just trying to get money for operations of our facilities and services to be used all different ways. And so we like to kind of, I'll let Molly kind of wrap this up, is throw it back out to the group.
Yeah. So what big idea are you going to leave today and try to go facilitate in your agencies? I think there was a lot of really great information that was put out. And again, it does not need to be big scale. It can be small scale. It can be changing policies, procedures. It can be maintaining. Just hopefully, I want to hear from some folks in the chat. Like, what are big ideas you're going to facilitate? Very interested. Well, it's great.
The big ideas are, again, it's not about us. It's really about, you know, the community. And so, you know, what does your community need? What is your community wanting? What are you hearing multiple times, not just from one person? And if anybody, we were very, very successful, Molly. We have gone somewhere like 57 minutes without saying the P word.
Wow.
So I think that is a new record. Monica says more winter activities. Monica, where are you at?
Let's see.
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin. Yeah, okay.
Great there. When I'm
Yes, implement the think tank. That's fantastic, Ivan. Awesome.
Oh, cool. Experiential gardening is part of Green Careers training program.
Fantastic.
Very cool.
I was gonna ask.
Janine, the P word is pickleball.
I was gonna ask the same
I've
thing.
tried to ban pickleball in all actions. So
I booked me and my wife pickleball bats the other week.
That is a hot thing in a lot of communities right now. So I know we just built 8 courts. Yeah.
It's a hot thing, good and bad.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I know a couple in Massachusetts, in Wellesley or something like that, that they have been able to close down the pickleball court because of noise.
Wow. Okay.
I think a couple in California too.
No,
You know,
that's
again,
been fantastic.
one of the whole purposes of this session is to really get you excited about trying to take on that big project or take on that big idea, and also provide you a route for you to try to navigate, not negotiate, although there is part of negotiation in this, but to navigate the how to bring the big idea to fruition.
You know, there's two things I feel I've learned about Parks and Rec people in the time working with you, Chris. And one, you'll know your communities. You'll know what is a good thing and what's going to provide benefit to them. So your ideas are probably going to be the right ideas. And two, the determination and the force with which a lot of you professionals attack your job means with the right sort of roadmap and the right sort of help, you can make these things happen for sure.
You can, but it's not instantaneous. And to some extent, we didn't even say this word culture. The groups, we're not talking about culture as in, ethnic it's just a culture of how they view recreation, especially in the New England area and some of these small towns. It's trying to change that culture to what it can be versus what it is. And you look at many places in Colorado where that culture is all outdoor based recreation. They just love it. Their lottery money is for it. But you get to some of these other communities that are just, afraid and don't know how to do it, and trying to prioritize and just, again, make sure we got enough money for a fire engine. And so you're competing with this. So you've got to use this process that we talked about to facilitate some of these bigger ideas.
All right. Well, thank you very much as always. It's been a great pleasure. Thank you to everyone joining us. I've seen the number go high above 100 during the course of this, so thank you very much. We have 3 more webinars with Chris next this year, so keep your eye open for more programs. Tell your friends if you've enjoyed it, invite them to the next ones. You will receive an email shortly with a link to the recording. And also, as the year kind of comes to an end and people are starting to look at new projects for next year, budget, etc., you might have some people from our team reaching out to see if Amelia can be part of your department's plans for next year. So thank you for your time once again. Thank you for all the work you do. All the best from me and Chris and Molly. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.